What's up, guys? Sorry it's so late. I was on a top secret mission. Alrighty, anyway, I'm back now. And yesterday we read Genesis chapter 27. And Genesis chapter 27 was talking about how Jacob went and, with the help of his mother, deceived his father into giving him Esau's blessing. And we also see that Esau comes in right after all of that happens and is expecting the blessing, and then bam, nothing happens. He finds out that Yaakov stole it from him by deceiving his father, and him plotting to kill Yaakov after Yitzhak dies. And then Rebecca making a scheme again to save her son. Waking up this morning, I realized that today is Saturday if you're in the United States, but since I've been doing the times of Israel, right? It's already Sunday, so I'm going to be doing 2 chapters for this one. Actually, no, this is actually technically Sunday right now. In Israel, it would be Sunday. So yesterday, I was supposed to do 2 chapters and 2 chapters. That's another strike against me. So I'm going to be making up for that here, 2 chapters here, and then 2 chapters for the next one. So we're going to be reading 28 and 29 right now, and then in a couple of hours when I come back, actually it's probably going to be more than a couple of hours, but when I come back, I'm going to do 28, 29, 30, and 31. So let's just go ahead and get right into it. Genesis chapter 28. So Yitzhak called Yaakov, and after blessing him, charged him, "You are not to choose a wife from the Hittite women. Go now to the home of Bethuel, your mother's father, and choose a wife there from the daughters of Lavan, your mother's brother. May El Shaddai bless you, make you fruitful, and increase your descendants, until they become a whole assembly of peoples. And may he give you the blessing which he gave Abraham, you and your descendants with you, so that you will possess the land you will travel through, the land God gave to Abraham." So Yitzhak sent Yaakov away, and he went to Padan Aram, to Lavan, son of Bethuel the Arami, the brother of Rivkah, Yaakov and Esau's mother. Now Esau saw that Yitzhak had blessed Yaakov and sent him away to Padan Aram to choose a wife from there, and that as he blessed him, he charged him, "You are not to choose a Canaanite woman as your wife," and that Yaakov had listened to his father and mother and gone to Padan Aram. Esau also saw that the Canaanite women did not please Yitzhak his father. So Esau went to Yishmael and took, in addition to the wives he already had, Machalat, the daughter of Yishmael, Avram's son, the sister of Neviot, to be his wife. All right, so to begin with, in the previous chapter, we see that Rachel had plans to send him to his uncle anyway, right, to keep him away from Esau. And it's kind of funny too how at the end of the chapter we also hear about how she's complaining to Isaac about Esau's wives, right, almost as a way to kind of get the conversation to turn to sending him to Padan Aram, to go get a wife, on top of keeping Esau away from Jacob. That's kind of funny how that worked out. But we also see here that Esau realizes how much his parents don't like his other 2 wives, right? And so he goes and gets another wife, thinking that that's going to solve the problem. And I mean, maybe it did, but maybe it didn't. Adding more problems to the ones you already have isn't a good idea. And yeah. Continuing on. Yaakov went out from Beersheba and traveled toward Haran. He came to a certain place and stayed the night there, because the sun had set. He took a stone from the place, put it under his head, and lay down there to sleep. He dreamt that there before him was a ladder resting on the ground, with its top reaching to heaven, and the angels of Adonai were going up and down on it. Then suddenly Adonai was standing there next to him, and he said,
I am Adonai, the God of Abraham your grandfather, and the God of Yitzhak. The land on which you are lying I will give to you and to your descendants. Your descendants will be as numerous as the grains of dust on the earth. You will expand to the west and to the east, to the north and to the south. By you and your descendants all the families of the earth will be blessed. Look, I am with you. I will guard you wherever you go, and I will bring you back into this land, because I won't leave you until I have done what I have promised you. Yaakov awoke from his sleep and said, Truly Adonai is in this place, and I didn't know it. Then he became afraid and said, This place is fearsome. This has to be the house of God. This is the gate of heaven. Yaakov got up early in the morning, took the stone he had put under his head, set it up as a standing stone, poured olive oil on its top, and named the place Beit El, house of God. I told you guys about Beit El a long time ago. That's what it meant. But the town had originally been called Luz. Yaakov took this vow: If God will be with me and will guard me on this road that I am traveling, giving me bread to eat and clothes to wear, so that I return to my father's house in peace, then Adonai will be my God. And this stone, which I have set up as a standing stone, will be God's house, and of everything you give me, I will faithfully return 1/10 to you. So we see here another example of a tenth or a tithe being given to God. Now, as I said in the chapter I talked about tithe, right, when Abraham gave a tithe to Melchizedek, right, and God does say to give a tithe to the Levitical priesthood, who ministers over the temple of God in Jerusalem. However, that stopped in 70 A.D. when the Romans destroyed the temple in Jerusalem. So, to biblically give a tithe is not able to be done, right? That's why, God says to just give out of your heart, right? Instead of giving some set number because it's in the Bible, just give to give, right? God loves a cheerful giver. If you're giving out of necessity, he's not going to accept you. And we see that with Abel. We see that with everybody who tried to please God with their own works instead of just doing the right thing, right? And even this example here is contingent upon God doing what he said he would do, right? And that's not to say that Yaakov is in the wrong for doing this. He's not, right? God said that he was going to do those things, right? And he didn't even require anything of Yaakov. This is just Yaakov showing his appreciation to God because of what he's doing, right? Basically, God, if you're going to do this for me, then I'm going to do this for you, right? But it's not because, like, it's not I want to do this, so because I do this, give me this. No, that's not what is going on here. He's giving because he wants to give back, right? He sees all of the good things that God is doing for him, and because God is doing all of these good things for him, he wants to do something good for God, right? And that only makes sense. That's what we're supposed to do. That's what we're called to do as Christians. God was so gracious and merciful to us, right? He gave us eternal life. And what do we do with that eternal life? We should want to give it back to God, right? And how do we give it back to God when everything belongs to him? You take care of the planet that he gave us, right? You take care of the people that he put on earth with us to help take care of everything. You take care of the animals, whether they be on the ground or in the sea or flying in the air, right? And the air doesn't just mean this air, in the atmosphere, right? It also means in outer space. Whatever creatures, whatever aliens, right? Whatever foreigners to this planet that there are, and we know that heavenly beings don't just reside on earth, they also reside in outer space, right? There's a spiritual and a physical. Because God gave us dominion over all of that, right? We should want to take care of it for him, because that's what we're called to do. Anyway, continuing on, chapter 29. Continuing his journey, Yaakov came to the land of the people of the east. As he looked, he saw a well in a field, and there were 3 flocks of sheep lying there next to it, because they watered the sheep from that well. The stone on the well's mouth was large, and only when all the flocks had gathered there would they roll the stone away from the opening of the well and water the sheep. Then they would put the stone back in its place on the well's opening. Yaakov said to them, "My brothers, where are you from?" They answered, "We're from Haran." He asked them, "Do you know Lavan, the grandson of Nahor?" They said, "We do." He asked them, "Are things going well with him?" "Yes," they answered, "and here comes his daughter Rachel with the sheep." Now, Rachel is Rachel. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but if you ever see a CH in English and it's originally a Hebrew word, you're supposed to say it like, right, instead of ch. That's an English thing, right? If it's an English word, then it can be pronounced that way. But if it's originally a different language, then we have to do our best to say it the way that they would say it. He said, "Look, there's plenty of daylight left, and it isn't time to bring the animals home. So water the sheep, then go and put them to pasture." They answered, "We can't, not until all the flocks have been gathered together, and they roll the stone away from the opening of the well. That's when we water the sheep." While he was still speaking with them, Rachel came with her father's sheep, because she took care of them. When Yaakov saw Rachel, the daughter of Lavan, his mother's brother, and the sheep of Lavan, his mother's brother, Yaakov went up and rolled the stone away from the opening of the well, and watered the flock of Lavan, his mother's brother. Yaakov kissed Rachel and wept aloud. Yaakov told Rachel that he was her father's relative, and that he was Rivka's son. And she ran and told her father. When Lavan heard the news of Yaakov, his sister's son, he ran to meet him, hugged him, and kissed him, and brought him to his house. Yaakov told Lavan all that had happened. Lavan said to him, "You are indeed my own flesh and blood." Oh my goodness. Sorry, guys. They're mowing the lawn over here. Woo. Oh, goodness. Gotta speak up now. After Yaakov had stayed with him for a whole month, Lavan said to him, "Why should you work for me for nothing, just because you are my relative? Tell me how much I should pay you." Now Lavan had 2 daughters. The name of the older was Leah, and the name of the younger was Rachel. Leah's eyes were weak, but Rachel was good-looking, with beautiful features. Now, I find it funny here that instead of just flat out saying that she was ugly, they say that her eyes were weak. Now, I don't know what weak eyes looks like, right? But I could imagine. And I don't necessarily think that she was even that bad looking, you know what I mean? But what do I know? Anyway, we see here at least who the prettier one is, and that's the younger. And that's kind of funny because Esav is the older, right? And he came out looking all hairy and stuff like that. Whereas Yaakov, he's the second. And when he came out, you know, he was all smooth and slick and stuff like that. So it's almost kind of coincidental that Esav and Leah, them being the firstborn, you know, firstborn son, firstborn daughter, they don't look as good, right? Because beauty is in the eye of the beholder. They don't look as good as Rachel and Yaakov do. And as we're about to find out later, those are the two that, you know, they click. They just vibe with each other. Anyway. Yaakov had fallen in love with Rachel and said, "I will work for you 7 years in exchange for Rachel, your younger daughter." Lavan answered, Better that I give her to you than to someone else. Stay with me." So Yaakov worked 7 years for Rachel, and it seemed only a few days to him because he was so much in love with her. Yaakov said to Lavan, "Give me my wife since my time is finished, so that I can start living with her." Lavan gathered all the men of the place and gave a banquet. In the evening he took Leah his daughter and brought her to Yaakov, and he went in and slept with her. Lavan also gave his slave girl Zilpah to his daughter Leah as her slave girl. In the morning, Yaakov saw that he was with Leah, and he said to Lavan, "What kind of thing is this that you have done to me? Didn't I work for you for Rachel? Why have you deceived me?" Lavan answered, "In our place this isn't how it's done, to give the younger daughter before the firstborn. Finish the marriage week of this one, and we'll give you the other one also in exchange for the work you will do for me during yet another 7 years." Yaakov agreed to this, so he finished her week, and Lavan gave him his daughter Rachel as his wife. Lavan also gave to his daughter Rachel his slave girl Bilhah as her slave girl. So not only did Yaakov go in and sleep with Rachel, but he also loved Rachel more than Leah. Then he served Lavan another 7 years. Adonai saw that Leah was unloved, so he made her fertile, while Rachel remained childless. Leah conceived and gave birth to a son, whom she named Reuven. See, a son. For she said, "It is because Adonai has seen how humiliated I have been, but now my husband will love me." She conceived again, gave birth to a son, and said, "It is because Adonai has heard that I am unloved. Therefore he has given me this son also." So she named him Shimon, hearing. Once more she conceived and had a son, and she said, "Now this time my husband will be joined to me, because I have borne him 3 sons." Therefore she named him Levi, joining. She conceived yet again, had a son, and said, "This time I will praise Adonai." Therefore she said him, Yehudah, praise. Then she stopped having children. And that is Genesis chapter 29. So we see here, Jacob finally makes it to his uncle Laban, or Lavan. And before he does this, he meets Rachel, or Rachel, right? And the funny thing is it took all of these shepherds to roll this big, or to move this big stone off of a well, right? So that they could all water the sheep. But when when he sees Rachel, right, and he's like, "Ooh, okay," he gathers up all of his strength and moves the stone by himself. That's hilarious. But when you're attracted to somebody, I guess you'll do just about anything for them, right? So there's that. On top of that, we also see the deceiver being deceived, right? God turning everything back on everybody's head, right? He deceived his brother twice. One time with the selling of his birthright for a bowl of soup, and then the other time taking away his blessing with another bowl of food, right? And here we see that he got deceived this one time, but who knows, maybe he might get deceived a second time. You never know. Anyway, one thing that we can learn from this situation, especially if God calls you to, marriage, and he calls you to marriage with one wife, right? Even if you'd been deceived by man into taking that wife, God will still use that bad situation and turn it for your good, right? For all of us who know the tribe that Jesus descended from, you know that everything would have been okay had he not sold himself for Rachel again, because Jesus is from the line of Judah, and Judah was the son of Yaakov and Leah. So even though that whole situation was screwed to begin with, right, and it shouldn't have been done by either side, Jesus was still born from one of her children.
And like I said, just because bad things happen to you or to somebody, and those bad things, produced a child, that child is innocent. It's not that child's fault that those bad situations happened, right? And don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to downplay situations where that has happened, right? I'm not trying to do that. I'm not trying to degrade anybody who made whatever choice they made when they were put in that situation, right? It's none of my business. But we can see here, right, that there was a similar instance of something like that happening, and God fixing that, right? God turning it around for good. So I'm going to catch you guys later on tonight for the other 2 chapters. I'm sorry that I keep messing myself up with the days, but I'll get better at it eventually. Anyway, you guys have a wonderful day. I'll see ya.